Passages from a Relinquished Work, by Nathaniel Hawthorne. At home from childhood, I was raised by a village parson who prayed over me daily and whipped me often, treating me no different from his 3 sons in these displays of fatherly care. The outcome, I admit, varied sharply. They grew into respectable men, preacher, doctor, shoe merchant, while I, with brighter prospects, took the path this book traces. I'm not sure I'd have preferred their success over my troubles, at least not until the latter taught me it was too late to try again. My guardian's name shines more in church history than on my trivial page. Locally, the lighter-hearted dubbed him Parson Thumbcushion for the vigour he brought to his sermons. If preaching power showed in wrecked pulpit furniture, few could match him. Once warmed up, he'd pound, slap, thump, and slam the great Bible as if battling Satan or a Unitarian through his poor cushion. Only this physical flurry kept him hale amid the mental strain of crafting those sermons. Though stern, by principle, I suppose, Parson Thumbcushion had an upright, even warm heart. I see now, with late but generous justice, he was good and wise in his way. His methods worked for his sons, but failed me. No schooling he knew could have shaped me better or led to happier ends. He couldn't bend my nature nor his rigid mind to fit me. Perhaps my real misfortune was having no parents. Their instinct and a child's trust in it can't be matched by any guardian, however dutiful. An orphan's lot is tough, rich or poor. In dreams I see the old parson gazing kindly yet sadly, offering a hand as if we both need forgiveness. May our next meeting hold that grace without the grief. I was a cheerful lad, irrepressibly light-hearted, free of vice, sensible but whimsical. What a clash with my guardian's grim pilgrim spirit! We differed endlessly, but the breaking point came when he demanded I pick a trade, while I, with a modest inheritance, vowed to shun life's grind, a risky choice anywhere. It was deadly in New England, where idleness is sin and good must toil. My countrymen couldn't fathom virtue in leisure. They foresaw only ruin for a youth dodging medicine, law, ministry, trade, or farming. Their scorn stung me, lumping me with drunks and wastrels, sparking a reckless resolve. Many readers may know the wild life I chose. The notion of a wandering storyteller sprouted years before, sparked by merry vagabonds I met in a showman's wagon during a rain. It wasn't crazier than most youthful schemes. Welder ones succeed daily. Beyond Eastern bards and local poets I'd heard, Goldsmith roamed Europe on less. I fancied myself fit, quick-witted, able-bodied, restless for work, even if just chasing fancies. Discontent with home and spite for Parson Thumbcushion, who'd rather bury than applaud me, drove me most. Uniting novelist and actor, I dodged writing tales by telling them, a less foolish dodge than penning novels outright. These pages sketch my roving days, weaving in bits of the vast fiction I spun and lost like clouds. I told tales for coin or idle ears, testing their pull. Fancy flowed so free it was its own reward, though applause spurred me too. My stories aren't as warm now as then. Judge them kindly. Each comes framed by its telling. Scenes of lakes, mountains, villages, fields, perhaps worth more than the tales. I write for the moral, a lesson for dreamy youths from a vagrant bard's life. A flight in the fog I began my wanderings one June sunrise. The day hinted fair, but a thick mist cloaked the earth, beading my clothes like frost. Sky hidden, trees and houses loomed only as I neared. Pausing on a western hill, I watched the road drop through the village and climb again, vanishing half a mile off. As the fog lifted, a grey shroud turned white, revealing a hazy town, mist softened all, wreaths and pillars as solid as buildings, making the plain scene dreamlike. Half the parson's house was cloud, half white. Squire Moody's mansion stood clear, balcony and all. My old home showed only red chimneys, its tenants strangers. I couldn't recall my mother there. The bank was lost in mist. A grand building's base had vanished. Fittingly, it failed. Nightingale's store seemed shaky. Pike's tobacco shop, a puff, save its Indian chief. The meeting-house spire pierced the fog, a symbol of faith rising from mystery to catch dawn's gleam. The dewy street, grassy patches, and tree-lined path felt more memory than fact, as if years had passed and I gazed back through time's haze. No tears fell, no sigh escaped. I'd never known such thrill of freedom till I traded home for the world, my spirit soaring as if to leap star to star. Waving farewell to the dim village, I turned, vowing any path but back, embracing Childe Harold's mood with none of his gloom. I thought of Don Quixote, half joking as I sought a sign like his. It came, not an ass's bray, but a faint rainbow arched over my road, born of sun and mist. Dull, ghostly, unlike the moon's omen, it cheered my buoyant heart as I stepped beneath it into the future. I'd sworn not to ply my trade within 100 miles of home, using a false name. Parson Thumbcushion my vended my tale early otherwise, though only I'd suffer disgrace. For weeks I roamed aimlessly, guided by a leaf's whirl, a green bove's wave, or a bare branch's point. Each night farther from home, a traveller one noon, as the sun blazed I sought shade, tavern, cottage, barn, or tree. A tidy oak grove beckoned, filtering light into a cheerful gloom. A clear brook ran under the road through a stone arch, cool and tempting. Crossing a stile, I traced it to a spring bubbling from an old barrel. A light pack hung from a tree, a stick leaned nearby, and a slim figure in shabby black broadcloth sat by the spring back to me. He jumped at my steps, revealing a young face my age, finger in a pocket Bible. I couldn't peg him Andover novice, college boy, or prep student. I'd have preferred a livelier soul like Gil Blas's comedian. After a nod, I made an oak leaf cup, drank, and quipped about urns over barrels. He barely replied, shyly. Had he brushed off my next remark, we'd have parted silent. It's odd, I said. Nature gives drink aplenty, but rarely food. Why no loaf on this tree to match the barrel? There's bread there, he said, straight-faced, as I laughed at the coincidence. I've some in my pack. If you'll join me, you're welcome. Gladly, I replied. A pilgrim like me can't refuse Providence. Oh, he fetched his bundle, blushing as he eyed me, but said nothing. Out came homemade bread and cheese, simple but hearty. He blessed our meal. A solemn surprise by the gurgling spring under sky lit Boffs, his shaky voice moving me. He gave thanks the same way after. Warmed by feeding me, he opened up. I praised the meal, offering supper in return. "We're?" he asked. "Yes," I grinned. "Our paths may differ," he said. "I take any but one, and never stray," I countered. "I'd breakfasted, dined, and will sup at home. Once I had a fixed spot called home, but I won't see it till I've circled the globe, entering east as I left west. My home's everywhere, or nowhere, as you like. Nowhere. Then, this fleeting world isn't home," he said gravely. "We're pilgrims. It's strange we've met." His meaning eluded me. Having shared salt, like desert Arabs, I pressed for his destination. "I don't know," he said. "God does." "Oh, you don't?" I marveled. "How'll you find it?" "Maybe an inner nudge," he replied, glancing to see if I smirked, "or an outer sign." "Then the sign's here," I said. "And the nudge should follow. Old saints saw God's will in stars, birds, beasts, even a dumb ass. Can't I guide as well?" "I don't know," he said simply. We teamed up, not chased by asylum keepers, though he might have doubted my wits as I did his, with less cause. I knew my quirks. He acted wild yet called it divine. An odd pair, striking apart, odder together. We stuck close, day after day. I couldn't ditch him. He was too shy, fragile, and burdened for solitude. A week later, far from home, I debuted to 9 souls. 7 hissed me soundly, and rightly. It flopped so bad I refunded their coin, no small sum, earning applause for it. A grim prospect beforehand, suicide-worthy. Proved bearable. I grieved more for my friend's parallel flop that night. Anger fueled me, not despair. My blood raced, spirits soared, vowing to win praise from foes. I'd underestimated my trade's demands. Every ounce of wit, lore, pathos, levity, imagination, and art was needed, as if I spoke for a nation. I couldn't hope to master all, but my despair drove me to dissect each flaw and fix it stubbornly. That grit, however absurd the goal, is my pride. I crafted tale outlines, filling them on the fly. Each retelling veered fresh. Success often hinged on that gap. I kept spare starts and ends, like a dandy's wardrobe. But my best had a unity no tinkering could fake. The Village Theatre by September, my friend and I hit a town where actors, back from Canada, staged shows in a tavern hall. That night's hare at law and no song, no supper, with Alexander's feast between, drew a sparse crowd. Next day, bills screamed unprecedented attraction. Me, the celebrated storyteller, debuting Mrs. Higginbotham's Catastrophe, a hit in cities. The hype was the manager's, not mine. I'd signed for one night, no fame assumed. My tale still unformed, its hero's fate undecided. Small slips below announced Eliakim, abbot's prayer meeting at the schoolhouse. That evening, Pugler's, I roamed to spark ideas, spirits high. Success seemed sure. At a dim schoolhouse, I slipped in. Saw Eliakim with 15, mostly women. His prayer faltered, shy and low. Several left after, leaving him to preach in gloom. I ducked out, sparing him my gaze. Back at the tavern, the weak tragedy left room for me. The bar buzzed, the hall roared, full house. After a wind, crater, water, I chatted with a charming actor, man or woman. Then strode out as fiddles played a dance tune. Curtain rising on a barroom set. Applause exploded. Hands, feet, sticks, handkerchiefs, like I was a star they'd missed. Ashamed to offer my humble tale, I leaned into mimicry and farce milking Higginbotham for laughs. A horsehair cue, snuck on by Little Pickle, flailed with my moves, doubling the mirth. Benches broke mid-cheer, yet they clapped on. Later, I saw it as fame's sham, part accident, part folly, little earned. They called me back. I didn't go. The landlord postmaster handed me a letter from home, in Parson Thumbcushion stiff script, to my fake name. He'd tracked his stray ward, unread, it pierced me. I pictured him scorning the stage's vanities, then softening, pleading love and wisdom. I burned it, sealing my choice between good and ill fate. Disquieted, I quit town despite praise and offers, Eliakim groaning at my guilt as we walked on.